This task involves a solution with multiple parts. There's the main program where the user is going to choose a value of n, and then a separate function is going to be called to make use of that value of n. So let's begin by coding just the sort of fundamentals of this. We're going to begin by allowing the user to select a value of n. So to do that, I'm going to set up a scanner variable. Scanner keep equals new scanner, system.in, and when I type the semicolon it should jump to the end of the line like that. The scanner is not being immediately recognized by NetBeans, therefore it has to be imported, so we'll just add the import line up there and that's it, good to go. Okay, next we will be able to read in the value of n and then convert that input from its string notation into an integer value for n. So we are allowed to assume that n is going to be a valid value, so I'm not going to do any validation here to make sure that it's, you know, it's not negative or that it's alphabetic or punctuation or something. So so let's just bomb on ahead with reading in the value of n. So I'm going to say int, and I'll just use n actually as the variable name in keeping with the task, so I can easily cross-reference what I'm doing. And I'm going to use keep.next, where are you? Keep.next int, and that should be able to read in the integer straight away as an integer. So let's prompt the user and tell the user what they need to enter. Enter the desired pin length. Let's leave a space. And let's take out the ln so that the prompt and the cursor to read in the value appear on the same line. What we could have done here was just use next line, and then that would have allowed us to transform it using parsing, but we'll just keep it like that for now. In order to leave a clear line, I'm just going to do that just to say leave a line. Okay, the double quotes don't, strictly speaking, have to be there. Okay, so that's going to read in the value of n, and our next job is then going to be to construct a function which is going to make use of the value of n to generate an n-digit random pin number. So let's use generate pin as the name of our function, and let's pass n as the parameter to that function. So the function that is going to give us back the pin number, I'm going to treat the pin number as a string, because if the pin number that's generated happens to begin with a 0, then we could risk losing that 0 if it were to be represented in one of the whole number data types in Java. So we're going to represent it as a string. I'm going to call it pin, and the function is going to be called generate pin. It's going to provide the integer value as a parameter. So let's go ahead and write the function. I'm going to mark it as private static for now. Don't worry about understanding that. By way of a quick explanation, it's private because it's only going to be used within this Java file. I don't really intend for any outsiders from elsewhere to come in and use this. And it's going to be static to say that it belongs to this particular class or this Java program. Again, let's not go there. So this thing is going to return a string. This function returns a string because it needs to provide a suitable value for the variable called pin. So it's going to receive an integer value, okay, and that is going to be the quantity of digits. So, okay, next we are going to give some thought to like how we're going to construct this string. So I'm going to say that the final pin number is going to be an empty string to begin with, but each time that we perform iteration through the n values, we are going to concatenate one extra digit to the end of that string. So what we can do here is we can use iteration in conjunction with random number generation to randomly select one of the digits from 0 to 9 each time and then add it to the end of the string, thus building up the pin number one character at a time. So if I do FORI tab, that will quickly set up a for loop for me. I'm going to take out the inner contents because they're not useful. Now, I'm not going to be using the length of an array. I'm going to be using the quantity that was supplied as a parameter here. So that's going to give me a for loop that's going to iterate that number of times, n times, because n is the quantity of iterations. So repeatedly add one digit to the end of the numeric pin. So that's what's going on with this for loop. So what we're going to do here is we're going to say that the final pin becomes equal to the final pin plus one extra digit. And this is the part where we have to give some thought. How are we going to randomly generate a single digit in order to append it to the end? Well, what I suggest we do is that each time that this function is called, that we set up a variable whose data type is random. That means that we need this syntactic structure in Java. So that will allow us to create a brand new variable called ran that comes with built-in methods that will allow us to achieve our objective. NetBeans is flagging in red here that it doesn't recognize the word random with a capital R, so let's use the feature of the IDE to automatically insert the import statement that we're going to need. You can see here that now we've ended up importing two different features of the util class. So to simplify that, I'm going to put the asterisk in there, but I'll leave a little comment there to say that both scanner and random were obtained from there. Okay, so in order to make use of this, what we're going to have to do is each time we go into the for loop and we're looking for an integer that we can add to the end, what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to use the random function and we're going to have to ask it to give us the next integer. Let's see, .ne, and we should be able to go down, down, down. Here we go. So this is the one that has the boundary value on it. It will return a pseudo-random number and it will be between 0 inclusive and the specified value exclusive. So this is the one that we need, and as long as we keep it between 0 and 9, it will be perfect. So we say exclude the number 10, and that puts an upper limit on it. So that means that this is good to go. We don't need to do any further adjustment to it because happily it's giving us what we need. I can now take out those extra brackets because in the Java language the plus sign is capable of concatenating together this string and this integer, because an implicit typecast will take place whereby the integer value will end up being treated as a string and the plus sign will join together the two string patterns. Having iterated through the entire for loop n times, n was fed into the value qty, which is controlling the number of iterations of the for loop. That means that we now have an n digit long pin number. And I'm going to say return the n digit pin. So we can now return the string value, which is known as final pin. Saving that. That completes the function. So I'm going to put in a java.comment here to explain what it does. And this thing builds an n digit pin. qty is the length n of the pin number. And I'm just going to specify n should be greater than 3 if it's valid, and what it's going to return is the randomly generated pin number. Okay, and of length n. Okay, so that's it. So if we have successfully generated the pin number, then for testing purposes we should really output the pin number by putting in the pin there. Okay, so all being well, this is a complete and working solution to the problem, and what we can now do is just put in a little bit more comments. Input the value of n, which is the length of the pin, and that does that. And then here we generate the pin randomly, and this is just for testing. Okay, and down here, this is just getting the variable set up. Okay, I'm happy that that's enough commenting for that. Let's run this. I'm going to use Shift and F6 to run the program that's currently on the screen. So if I say that I want a 6-digit PIN number, then it does indeed give me a 6-digit PIN number. Let's run it again. Shift and F6. Enter the desired PIN length. Let's say it's a 9-digit PIN number. 487823980. Lovely. Let's go again. Shift and F6. Enter the desired PIN length. Let's say I wanted a 16-bit or 16-digit PIN number. And yep. Okay, so it is just something of a coincidence that we're seeing there 3 triplets of numbers, because the use of nextInt is described as a uniformly distributed randomizing system. The generation of random numbers is a complex area of computer science, and one that does warrant a bit of closer study sometimes, but in this case I'm happy to accept that this is a working solution to the problem. It was a longer problem because it required thinking about the main method of the program, where we input the value of n, and also thinking about the composition and construction of the function, which would generate a random PIN number with n digits in it. And we have leaned on strings as part of our solution here. And just to recap, that the use of strings is to deal with the possibility that one or more of the digits on the left of the PIN number could have been set to 0, and if we had used the int data type, we could easily have lost those zeros. Furthermore, the integer and long data types in Java both have upper limits in terms of the quantity of characters, whereas setting it to a string allows it to be substantially longer as well.